Hi everyone. I hope we're all live. We had as always, we seem to have a little glitch just before we hit lift off. I've had to play with the microphone settings as well, so I'm hoping that everything's a little bit louder today. Not too loud. I'm keeping an eye on all of that on one side as as we're going along. So let me just get into the chat. Might help as well if I pop my glasses on and then I can see what's being written and said. Hi, Marie is in from Florida. So if you can see me and you can hear me, please do pop into the chat and say hello. Rob is in there as well, just keeping an eye on things. A little bit of housekeeping before we get going. All of the dogs are in the room next door. I do have a great big soundproof curtain up. If by chance someone knocks the door or something, I will mute for a minute or so because they will bark. So just to let you know. You can see and hear me. I think that means Marie can and see you. Love it. So I know there's a few people sat there. Hi Harry. Is it cold up in Glasgow? It's freezing here. I've had to put a blanket over my knees today. Not much lag today either. Missed the first few seconds due to an advert. Sorry, I should have hung on a little bit. Hi Robin from Washington State, Kentucky. All okay with sound video. Thanks, Philip. And hello to everybody. A couple of firsts today. You'll see I'm no longer Little Miss Pinky. Had a bit of a change. So I'm sort of Little Miss Violet now. So winter colours. Bit of a change. Plus I ran out of pink dye. Got a couple of other firsts today. A couple of things I'm going to show you. Things I was going to put out online today, but I just haven't. If you're on my newsletter, then you might have seen I put out a big email this morning just with some news and different things on, just some mentions of things that are going on Patreon as well. So those of you that are in the draw along as well, I've put out today sort of, a couple of ideas for our next draw along, which I think we might be looking at doing speed drawing. So yeah, really hope that the sound is much better this time. We had to dig down into a few settings and then I found what looks like a magic one that seems to have boosted everything, which is really good. Because that was worrying me each time that we couldn't get the microphone working and there's always something. So if we move on, we've had some questions in about websites. So I think we had about 3 questions in. We also had a question about what do I do when I finish a piece, and about scanning and getting prints done. So I'm going to cover all of that, and then if there's any other questions that come up, of course we'll answer those as we go along. So talking about websites, when I started out, when did I start? I started out sort of beginning of June, beginning of 2012, and I initially just started out with a Facebook page to show my art, and really mostly why I set up a separate page was just to keep it, let's say, separate to my personal newsfeed. I mean, my two have become quite merged over the years, to be honest, because obviously I can't post so much on my personal page anymore. It sounds really weird, and I hate saying this. It's kind of like Karen Hall said it to me. It's sort of like as soon as you're sort of like a bit more well known as an artist, and people follow your personal page as well, you sort of just have to be a bit careful with opinions. And I'm just really aware about not upsetting people. So it tends to be sort of my personal page is now quite similar to my business page, and I share from my business page. But the business page originally was to keep all my artwork separate, and it is quite nice actually that I can go back through the galleries and the posts and see where I've come from in the last 6 years. And I think the first 6 months I didn't actually have a website, but then I had the domain name Animal Art by Law. I purchased that, and I also purchased the email, so I sort of thought ahead and made sure when I set up the business that I had that. Then I went ahead and I didn't have a clue about websites, and I thought, well, I'm not spending. I thought they were about a couple of £1,000 to get done. And I thought I can't justify spending that amount of money at the outset, but I knew I needed a website to look professional. And I know someone has asked, do you need a website? And I would say if you want to do commissions and look professional, Yes, have a website, even if it's just a landing page. So in other words, you know, it just, people search your name and it clicks. And it's just got one simple page with some information about you, and then even a contact page or something. As long as there's something, people then sort of have, it builds the element of trust. So to have that website there, it's sort of, even though anyone could put a website up, it's sort of just one of those little extra ticks to give people trust, because when someone's commissioning you, a lot of the time they're complete strangers. They could be in another country. Um, so yeah, definitely good to have an idea to have a website, even if you're not really thinking about selling your art, but you're proud of your art. You could just put a gallery online and you never know who might come across it and what might come from it. I've been approached by, you know, like licensing companies and things just from them coming across. And I think they like just like searched animal art online and they've just come across some of my images and clicked through to my website. I've actually won a couple of awards as well through people using my website as part of the judging criteria, which I wasn't aware of at the time. So I initially started out, I had my domain name, and I'd bought it through a company called 123. And there are others, I think like Wix, W-I-X, Wix. I know some people have got websites on there which you can build your own. And I think you just pay a certain amount and then you get these like templates and you get lots of free templates. And then you literally, and it's a bit like, you know, sort of, it's all structured for you, and all you do is you go in and populate it. So yeah, you've got a homepage set up. So all you do is you go in and put, you know, a profile picture up or a gallery picture up, type a little bit about you and change the writing. And usually you can add on as many pages as you like. So you get, I do recommend getting a price guide up, not so necessarily a price list. A price list means that people will pin you down on a price, and then you might end up with a really complicated commission that sort of, I don't know, takes you 3 or 4 times longer than maybe like a basic, really easy photo that you get sent. So make it a price guide and just say, you know, prices from. So, and just explain, you know, to say to people, this is my pricing guide. Here's a few sizes. I used to do mine. I haven't got mine anymore because I've moved over to a new server and a new website professionally built at the start of this year. And unfortunately, I've lost access to everything that was on my old site. But when I used to get people coming through for commissions, what I did on a specific page all about commissions on my website was I put down my pricing guide, what was included and what was not included in there. So I'd say, you know, anything up to a 8x12 or A4 was just for a single head portrait. Double portraits only started at the next size up, which was a 12x16. A second or third or more subject within one portrait, I would charge X amount for at this size, another amount for at a bigger size. I would do a simple tonal background free, and then more complicated backgrounds were from £25 upwards. So I made sure that I just listed a few little things in there, because I found as well with commissions, a lot of people, random strangers on social media, would come on and they never say please or thank you, and it's just like, oh, what do you charge? What's your price? What's this? Yeah, I don't know. Maybe 1 in 10, 1 in 20 even would be genuine and come back and would afford it and would also value your work. So what I do, just to save time, I go, here's a link to my website. Read all about the commissions. If you're interested, hit the contact me or email me page. And that way you sort of rule out the ones, as soon as they see your prices, it's either, yeah, that's okay, that's fine, or you're too expensive. And it sort of just sorts all that out for you really quickly. Hi, Susie. Nice to see you. Nice to hear you. See you. Yep. Hello. So yeah, that's a really good reason for having a page on there. It will save you time, but also it forms part of my terms and conditions. And I know someone's asked a specific question about the terms and conditions. Should you have them? Where should they be? There's 2 places you can have them. So I had them as well on my website. So I had all the, you know, the little price guide in a table with all the extra little bits. And then I would include some terms and conditions about payments. So it would be a 50% not deposit. Remember I explained in a previous Q&A about not using the word deposit. So a 50% booking fee, non-refundable booking fee. And also then, you know, when the payment the final balance payment would be due on completion. Part of the process would I'd keep them updated throughout the creation process, and I think my cancellation thing was something like if they cancelled more than 8 weeks before I was due to commence the actual portrait, then they would get a partial refund, less, I don't know, about 10% sort of admin fee, just for my time from having dealt with them, because I would already have been liaised with them a few times with emails, looking at reference photos, and then I would also need to fill that gap as well by then starting to liaise with someone else to, for a new commission. So that just covered a bit of my time, but because I'd laid it all out in the terms and conditions, it covered me. And people, if they hadn't read it, when I'd said to them, you need to read through this and agree to it, the onus is on them. What you can do as well is if you charge by PayPal or however you send the invoice to them, make sure you've got all those terms and conditions just typed up onto a separate document, and you attach those and send them with you, and just make sure in the email or the conversation you say please refer to the booking terms conditions attached. You can take it a step further if you want, and I know you can do this on Adobe. There are other programs out there, invoicing programs, use lots of things. You can actually put all that into a contract as well, and you can get them to sign the contract. They can digitally sign the contract and send it back to you. That makes it even more watertight. But I just think the more places you've got this, and again as well, when I used to send out the invoice on PayPal, I attached all of those terms and conditions into the notes section, so there was extra, I think there is actually a T's and C's condition box on the PayPal invoicing site. So yeah, definitely have a website. I say mine has changed now. 123 did drive me mad. Really check the reviews of some of them. They still own my domain name and my email, so each year now I have to pay them quite a bit of money to renew, being able to own my email and my domain. You also need someone good to host your website. I moved mine away from 123 because it kept going down on their server. So I moved it away and got a friend to host it, which was great. But I just found then that it was a small server, and there's a few times where there'll be an update on my WordPress, because I did all mine in WordPress, and it is quite simple. It's like a drag and drop. Again, if you use one of their, you can buy layouts as well. I actually bought a really nice graphic layout, and I really liked it. But I kind of outgrew it, and like I say, it was just starting to update it. WordPress would update and it would lose some of the features, and it's all plugins, this and that. It is simple, but try not to get too complicated in one go if you're going to build it yourself. But at the start of this year, I knew that I had to step it up a notch. Obviously, I was giving up the commissions. I needed to make myself look more business-like, get the whole tutoring thing up there, the Patreon, the links, the shop. It's still only half done. I still got to add on the portal, so I can move everything away from Patreon and have my own private portal you can log into without all the hassles of dealing with Patreon, without Patreon taking lots of money from me as well, but also without having to deal with their system going down, the lack of functionality, etc. So I actually I had a friend who runs a gallery, and he also designs websites. So I just thought I'd ask the question, and he said, what do you need? And I went, this, and this. And he came back with a figure, I think it was about £1,200, £1,300. And I thought, do you know what, the amount of time and frustration that it would cause me to try and to learn how to build it all myself, because he could do all the computer language and everything and build it properly. I thought, I'm just going to hand it all over. And for me to hand something over, because I'm such a I don't know, I try to be a perfectionist and quite controlling, I guess. I built everything myself, and I kind of own everything, and to let that go to someone else was really hard. But in the end, I just said to him, look, just tell me what you need, when you need it, and shout at me if I don't come up trumps for you. But between the two of us, we got on really well, and he did a really good job. It wasn't quite finished when we took it on board, but now Rob is doing an amazing job sort of staying on top of it. I'll do a few little updates on there, but he is now sort of getting his head around how to go into, the basics of it. But again, this one is on something called Squarespace. And again, they've got their own templates, but much more professional. I do pay a lot of money to them each year now for hosting, but it means if a server or anything goes down, which it shouldn't because they've got so many backup servers, but it means that they're running backups of my whole website, so I've never got to worry about losing it. I've lost on the old one, I've lost it a couple of times and had to rebuild the whole thing myself. And yeah, it's a tough one. Starting out, you don't want to spend too much, but you do want to make sure you get a really good hosting site with a backup. That is my best recommendations to you for it. Susan, that's fine. If you want me to run through those terms and conditions again, it's absolutely fine. I might have them typed out on an old computer. I'm more than happy to share them. It's same as well on my website. I used to have, as part of the commissions guide, I really made an effort to make a great photography guide that I would also refer my clients to. And when I'd say to them, this is the guide for, what photos I need. And I'd show examples of, a really bad photo of a black dog taken in bright sunshine, and then another photo I took of the same dog that we actually used for the commission, took in diffused light, where I could see all the features and the eyes, and also about getting down to their level, making sure there's a third person there, so if the dog or the cat is treat orientated, starve them that morning before I'm coming so that they're really driven to be responsive to the food. If it's toys, you know what I mean? But a third person means that they can come and stand behind you if you want, if the client wants a pose of the dog looking at you, and someone else can be controlling them on the lead. I tend to meet them on neutral ground as well when I was doing commissions to set up the photography. So I'm going off at a tangent a bit here. And that way you're not going into the dog or the cat's environment. Cats is a bit more awkward. If you do it in the garden, it's better if they can be an outdoors cat, which is what we did with Aura, and that's how I got the lovely pose of her looking up. She just naturally was looking at the birds flying and the trees, really nice and settled. But in the house, she was a bit more guarded, and I couldn't get a photo really in the house. So with dogs especially, like I say, get them out onto a territory. If there's an open space they can run in, get a zoom camera, put your scruffy clothes on, lie down on the floor, take a blanket, and get down to their height. But if I can dig out all of those, I'm sure I saved some like snapshots of the website before it vanished on the old server, but I will double check that for you. So I think I've covered websites there. If there's any more questions, please do just ask them. I'm just trying to think if there was anything else to do with the website. Let's have a quick drink. I've got a really cool, I'm going to show you. I've got a new crazy cat lady mug, which my mummy got me. Love it. Okay, Susan's just asked, if you're buying a domain name, it could be worth your while doing it via Google Domains, as they charge a reasonable price. Likes of Wix gives you a cheap price first year, then it goes up. See, that's probably what caught me out, Susan. I know now that did I say crazy cat lady, Rob, did I? Oh, I'm crazy dog lady. Okay. See, I'm very tired. That's really good advice about the domain name, because I know someone said to me that I've paid too much for mine. I didn't even really look. It just gets renewed each year. I haven't even really looked back to see what they're charging me. Maybe I should, and next time they charge me, like next February I think it is, maybe I'll challenge them and say, well, why is it going up? And why is it, so much if it is a huge difference? Because I know I can get it somewhere else, but it means I lose it for a while before it then becomes publicly available, and then I might lose out on it. So the other thing as well is, if you've got something that's a popular name, I know I searched my domain name, and there is something out there called Art by Law, which is in the UK, but they're a photography company. That's why I partly went with the Animal Art by Law. So if you've got a more common name, then you might struggle to use your own name, unless you do something like, I'm going to do it, for example, Susan Murray Fine Artist. Hopefully there shouldn't be too many people out there called Susan Murray who are also wanting to run a business called Fine Artist. But you might also want to buy several domain names around that. So, sorry, Susan, I'm just using you as an example. So Susan Murray Art, Susan Murray Fine Art, Susan Murray Fine Artist. You might want to buy all of those up. You're only going to use one, possibly, but make sure that you own them, and then no one else called Susan Murray can come along and pick another one up and then add some confusion. Someone comes looking for you and they find the other Susan Murray, and they commission her, not realising it's not you. So yeah, try and get ownership of all the domains that are close to your business name is another little bit of advice there. Okay, anything else to do with that? Yeah, also look as well, some of them will give you more than one email address as well, so utilize that. And then you've got, I know I've got Lisa at animalartbylaw.co.uk, and I've also got info at, and I know I can add more to that as well. So you could do like sales at, and then you can filter those in your email system, which just helps filter things out a little bit as well. It's just all little time saving things, really. Okay, so we'll go on to the next subject in a minute if there's no more questions coming in. And is the sound okay? It's not distorting at all. I'm trying to keep an eye on it. That's fine, Susan. Just pick my brains whichever way you need to get it right. And again, being in the group as well, anything you want checking over on your site, any changes or updates or anything like that, pop it into the private group, and you know it's safe in there for us guys to just check it through. I struggle sometimes because I know I sent out that email this morning and I checked it 3 times. And I still think I missed, my keyboard is really sticky at the moment for some reason. I still miss like an N off now, apparently, and another word, I think, putting no instead of do, and spell checking. So just ask us if you need something spell checking or just looking over or checking the links. I know I get emails through from someone like Deb Stanley. I'll just go in on them and I'll just click through on all the links to make sure that everything's okay with her email. And if it's not, I'll just give her a shout and say, oh, Deb, I had a quick look as soon as your email came out. This wasn't working. And then she can go in and correct it. So it's just all about helping each other out a little bit, really. Thanks, Philip. That's really cool. So I'm not talking too loud. I've got my monitor on so I can see that I'm not... Rob said, as long as I don't sneeze, I'm fine. Okay, so, Philip, was it yourself that was asking about the scans and the prints? I think it was. So anyway, when I finish a piece, well, obviously when I'm doing the tutorials, and to be honest, when I'm working, I tend to try and... I take photos, like a big piece. I don't like taking the big piece off my drawing board too much, especially as I'm filming, because it means I've just got to line it all back up. I thought it was Philip. I've got to line it all back up with the camera and everything, so I don't like moving it too much. But I do try and scan as well as photograph as I go along. Now, my scanner is A3. I've got 2 scanners. They are both Epson Workforce scanners. One is a 7515. And the other, 7515, I think it is. And the other one, the new one I've got, is the 7715. So this is the new model, and I hate it because it's just not as good as the older model for some reason. And also, one thing I figured out something this week with Epson, with anything, all the Windows updates you get, I don't know if you're like me, but when I get a Windows update, it seems to mess up my computers, like Windows 10 especially. They'll do an update and something will go wrong, like on my Surface tablets, all of a sudden I can't use Internet Explorer. On one of my laptops now, it's removed me as a profile, so it's lost me completely. I do tend to have a couple of laptops, a tablet, I've got the main desktop, but that's because I need them for the business. But as a word of warning, always try to have a backup device, even if it's just your phone, where you can go in and Google, I've got this problem since having an update. Because I had an update recently, it's gone through on all of my laptops, and all of a sudden I couldn't do anything on my scanner. All it would give me was the app with the most basic scans, and it's impossible. It wouldn't even recognise A3. Couldn't print, couldn't do anything. So I was on to Epson this week, so I searched online, I'm having this problem, figured out it was just after an update, saw other people having the same problem, so I got in touch with Epson, and literally within 2 minutes they sent me all the new drivers. That's all it was. I needed new drivers, put all the new drivers on, so now I've got full access to all my professional settings, because when I'm on my scanner, I've got different settings, so I fiddle with my settings on the professional setting level, tweak them all for when I want to scan on black paper, for when I want to scan something that's got lots of reds in, like my foxes, and I've just tweaked them, and I save them then as presets, so I know if I'm doing another fox, I can just hit that preset and it's the most optimised for that picture that I'm drawing. I don't tend to do any editing in the actual scanner itself, though. I've got those presets. It's a case of just learning as you go along. I've been scanning stuff now for 5 years or so, 5-6 years, and even now I'm still learning with it, so it is a patience thing. You can get A4 flatbed scanners. Epson is a good one. I don't know, from about £80 upwards. But to be honest, if you try to get an A3 scanner, they are over £1,000 now. That's why I've gone for the workforce. I don't use the fax machine. I sometimes use the printer, but not for printing high quality, apart from the odd photograph that I want to use for reference. But the scanner is A3 and it has got full professional settings. It is a really good flatbed scanner, and I think you can buy this new model for about £150. It's a huge monster of a thing. It is massive, so you do need the space for it. But it's great because the clarity you get from a scan far outweighs what I personally can take even with my professional camera. Now, when I finish a piece, obviously I always scan it because I never know whether I'm going to make prints at some point. Usually I do. I'm pretty terrible because I shut my print shop down before Christmas last year. I need to open it up. It's just that I do not have time to keep up with orders. That's why I close it down. When you then transition onto, okay, I want to now print, start selling prints or doing prints, even if it's as gifts, I would always recommend that you get them printed by an accredited member of the Fine Art Guild. So I use a company called Redcliffe Fine Art. They're based in Bristol in the UK. I've never been there, but they are only about 40 minutes away from me. And I've worked with them now for 5 or 6 years, so they've been really, really good. There's only a couple of times where something's come and it's not been quite how I'd seen it on my screen, but they've been brilliant. They've taught me through how to calibrate my screen, calibrate the scanner. They know my art, so if something's not quite right at their end when they receive it, they do try and double check. The other thing I can do is I can pay something like, I think it's £10, and they will send me a proof. So I can get an actual tiny little proof with all the details of the print as well. And then as soon as I see the proof, I can go, oh, that needs tweaking a little bit. And I can go back to them and say, can you just change the settings of this, this, and this? And they'll do it. They are fab. But the thing is, going through a professional printer, there's pros and it... Okay, if you print at home, and I'm going to use Deb Stanley as an example, she won't mind. She used to print her own prints at home. So she'd do a few, print off maybe, 5 or 10 off to some orders. Then 6 months down the line, someone else would order some. She'd go and try and print it off. It'd come out completely different. And she was in so much stress and tears over it. And I said to her, Deb, just stop doing them yourself. One, it costs a fortune in ink. But it's the stress. It's just no. And the fact also that, you're using these high quality inks, but they're not giclées. Giclées are fine art prints using a process that is guaranteed archival terms for up to 100 years, I believe. And if you go with a member of the Fine Art Guild, then you get things, proper certificates is the word. I was going to say certified then, that's for me. Get proper certificates alongside them, which are signed by the printer, and then you can fill in as well, the size. And I've got some here I'm going to show you. But it just means it takes all the stress out of you. You get to choose tons of fine art paper. I always print on Somerset Velvet. I love it. It's real bright white paper. It's very soft, but it gives really beautiful clarity. So I do have an option with Redcliffe that if I wanted to take my images to them, which I know other people do, I think maybe Deb does this now. Her printer is quite local to her now that she uses. But you can take your originals to the printer, print people, and work with them for them to scan or to photograph it. Now, I know my guys, Redcliffe, photograph it, and to be honest, I think it was about £150 a few years ago when I asked. And I thought, you know what, I can't justify that. The scans are coming out okay, I'm really happy with it. I don't want to be doing the trip down there, spending, using up a day, and also sort of spending that kind of money. Now, I know Beck Scaverna, she does photograph artwork for others as well. And she also has got an amazing new scanner. And I know, Philip, you said to me I'd mentioned a new scanner when I was up in Cumbria doing a workshop. It's a scanner that Bex has bought, and I do not know the brand. She has sent me a link. I did go and look it up. I think it's worth about £3,500. I know she got a deal just under 3,000, and I think I saw a deal recently. It was 2,500. I can't justify that at the moment still. I'm not going to use it enough. It's not going to give me that big an advantage over what I've got now. I can scan at highest DPI, you know, I scan at 300 DPI, sometimes at 600 if I'm working using the drafting film, but you can go up as high as you want. Oh, and another thing as well, when you do your scans, make sure you're saving them in 2 or 3 places. I've got them on 2 laptops and up on OneDrive, and then I try and copy them all across into Dropbox as well. So I've got them in a few places. The last thing you want to do is a computer or something or a storage unit goes down and you've lost those scans, because that's just awful. So get them up online in a couple of places as well. Oh, we've got movement. The flamingos are flying behind me. So yeah, that is my advice on scans. Like I say, the scanner is only £150. If you only get an A4 scanner, I mean, the polar bear I'm doing at the moment is about A2 size in total. So I'm having to do 4 scans on my A3 printer. So I put it in, scan, turn it 90 degrees, scan, turn it 90 degrees, scan, and yeah, do that 4 times. And then Microsoft Ice is the free program. I open that up, drop those 4 images in. 5 seconds later, it's stitched them all together, and then I've got my full-size scanned image, all, you know, perfect, really high quality. So I'm going to show you this now. These haven't been seen yet. These came this week. So these are fine art giclées. There's a little bit of rustling. These are fine art giclées that have come from Redcliffe. Now I get them sent in a tube because, again, they come in a really hard tube. I'm not paying an extra £10. Unless I'm getting lots sent to me, then I'll get them sent flat packed. So these are the certificates that I was saying about. You can print these off yourself. I'm just unfurling them a little bit. So I'm going to try and hold these up to the camera. So these are the certificates that the fine art printer sends with the prints that I get done. So you can see here it explains it about it being an archival print, the method they use with a 12-colour pigment ink system, the fact that there's a member of the Fine Art Guild. It's signed by the printmaker here. The artist and printmaker hereby affirm the authenticity of this open edition print. So you can do open edition or you can get limited edition prints. When I first started out, I think I did an original Snow Leopard 25 run of a limited edition. I didn't have a clue back then that I should have done 100, because I sold those 25 in the first couple of weeks, and I wish I'd done more. But here you can put in your title, name of the artist, date of release of the print, image size, and the paper type. And then you just sign at the bottom alongside the printer. But they're really nice certificates. I've done these little A5 ones I've had done because I've had some smaller prints done, or you can have these done A4. And there's nothing really to stop you scanning these in as well, because I think I pay £150 or something for each of these little certificates, which isn't much because they are printed onto the same paper as well that I get my prints printed onto. So here are a couple of the prints that I've had done, and this is why they haven't been seen before. I'm just going to move the microphone out of the way a little bit. Okay. So as you can see here, this is A4 size prints. Let me just make sure that you're seeing this. There we go. Okay, so these are the first prints that I've had done of the dandelion. Now, considering the original of this is only 6x8 inch, obviously here it's enlarged already to A4 size. I was worried about how big to take these, so I did get an A3 print done, and I didn't have a great joy in scanning these because they were on drafting film, and when you scan on drafting film it kind of diffuses a little bit, so I upped it to 600 DPI. So here is the A3 version. I'm hidden behind here now. So as you can see again, I'm just going to move it across for you as well. It's really brought out the quality beautifully, and it gets lovely, you get the border around it as well. So I am really, really happy with those. And now that I've got the samples through, because people wanted to order some from me, now I've got the samples through, I'm more than happy to go ahead and sell these and not take orders. But that's on the Somerset Velvet. But what I did as well as a little trial, I also get things printed on canvas. So these are still in wraps. These have only just arrived. So this one is, now what size is this? I think this is 20 by 30 or, no, this is 30 by 40 centimetres. So it's still got a cover on it. So it's probably showing some reflection there. It's got the cover, but you can see the canvas is coming out really well. So that's just a small canvas, but I've actually had it printed as well onto a 40 by 60 inch, or even bigger, 60 by 80 inch centimeters, 60 by 80 centimeters. It's come out fantastic. I'm really impressed. So I hang those at like local, my local pet food shops got a load of them up. Local pub restaurants got those canvases up. They're really great because they're a really quite a cheap one. No, actually, they cost me a little bit more for the printing service, but I can sell the canvases ready to hang, and I can charge slightly more for them. I've got donkey ones, the double donkey ones I always usually have in stock. I've got 3 here now at the moment. I just couriered one off a couple of days ago. They're 60 by 60 centimetres, so a lot bigger than the original drawing. But if you do a nice high quality scan, then you can keep enlarging. I think I've printed that one off 1 metre by 1 metre, so 100 by 100 centimetres. It still looked fantastic. But it's all reliant on, having a really good quality scan. I think that was all the prints there. Oh yeah, I did do. Here's another one as well. An example here of, again, it's got the reflection. So I've had like Inky Lion just printed up as well, and I'm really impressed. It's just a small one, and I've had a big one done as well. So again, when I sell my originals, and I get really upset because I've sold my originals, I now get my images printed onto canvas and I hang those in my own house. They're really nice. So I've still kept the image. So I hope that covers things to do with scanning. If there's anything else, Philip or anybody else, please do ask. I can see though that Marie has asked a question about scanning pan pastels. Okay, so I'm scanning at the moment the polar bear. If you scan on something like velour is really, I'd say, flopsy. Oh, hang on a second. We've got a stray dog just arrived in the room who's not supposed to be here. Let me just remove. No, Lucy. No. Can you go out? I don't think your dad saw you come out here. That's it. She's not having a starring role today, I hope. Good girl. Okay. What was I saying? Scanning. That's it. So if you scan on something like velour, velour is, like, say, really flimsy. If you're scanning on the Colourfix Smooth that I'm using is quite flimsy. So what I would recommend is you attach it to a backing sheet first of all, especially if you know you're going to be using pastel, because that way when you lift it off to scan, you've got it affixed and it's on a really nice firm surface, and you can carry it just like a board basically. When I use my scanner, I've got a microfiber cloth. I clean the scanner before every single scan. And obviously, shake off my cloth as well. I've got a pack of about 10 microfiber cloths there. Then I'm really careful. Obviously, I place it down really gently, close the lid, hit the scan button, and I'm not being joking. If anyone who saw the live demo that I did on the $15 tier this last month, where I demoed using pastels, and what I do is I put the pan pastel down, pick up the piece of paper, I'd flicked the back, nothing came off it, and I was flicking super hard. That's because if you use Pastel Matte, if you use the Colourfix Smooth, if you use the UART sanded papers, the pastel is designed to stick to it. It grabs hold of the pastel, so the pastel is not coming off, so you shouldn't have any problems. So you lay that, that is being laid flat onto the glass surface of the scanner. Do your scan, lift it off really gently, give it a wipe. If you need to, like with the polar bear, I'm having to do 4 scans with each just to get the one image because it's so big. I'm not having any problems at all. It's just about being careful. Oh, you didn't see her get out. No, I think she's gone again now. So, no, she's being good. They're being quiet, so we've got to be thankful. So, no, just be really careful. You're already conscious of the fact that it's pastel. There could be a little bit of dust. The main thing is when you lift it off from your scanner, that you clean it, and also then when you go back to use the scanner again, just give it another wipe, because there could be a little bit of dust up in an area that you can't see. You do your scan, carry on with a piece or something, or you send it off to a client. It's the finished image. You send it off to a client, look at the scan, and then go, oh no, there's loads of dust up in this area. I mean, you can use, when I was saying about using the scanner, I don't tend to change many of the settings. I try to make sure that I'm getting a really good, well lit, sharpish, correctish colour image. I don't do many enhancements, because what I'll do then is I'll scan it, I'll drop it into something like GIMP or even Be Funky, and then I'll just make a few adjustments. What I do with my scans is I try to match them as close as possible to my originals. When they're printed onto Somerset Velvet, they are pretty close, but there's consistency by using the same print paper every time. There's a consistency in all of my prints. So a client that might have bought a print from me 5 years ago, if they buy a print now, it's going to look very similar, even if the whole method of creating the portrait was different, because it's printed onto the same kind of paper by the same printers. So there's a consistency in quality, and they can hang those pieces up next to each other and should be able to tell that, you know, it's from the same artist rather than looking completely different. But I do know people that scan images, and when they do their prints, they don't want it to look anything like the original. They've said to me the whole point of the print for them is it's nothing like the original. The original was a one-off, so to them the scan should be completely different. So it's each to their own. As long as you're happy with the quality of it, it's up to you. I mean, I'd still say try and get a scan that's as close to the original as possible. And then if you want to do the print slightly differently, fine, you've got the two versions there. But that is what, yeah, I thought it was quite strange when someone said that, but I did totally get what they were saying. But that was fine for them, but not really necessarily what I would have, or what I choose. But yeah, I'm really, really chuffed with my lion prints, so I'll be popping those out on Facebook next week, hopefully for sale. Okay, so any more questions to come in? Let me just check time. We've got about 20 minutes. I've got a huge thing on when I've done this today. I've got I've got to go and pack my bags, quite literally, get the video camera ready. I'm driving to Kent tomorrow, and first thing I'm going to do is I'm off to see Alan Woolett. I was supposed to be staying there, but I thought, oh no, I got such a stressful day on Monday that I needed to book somewhere to stay on my own for tomorrow night. So I'm going to go down to see Alan. We're going to spend some time in his studio. I'm going to be teaching him a little bit of pan pastel work, which should be interesting. I will take photos as evidence. And then we're going to do a behind the studio door video with him as well, so we can have a really good nose, and I will have a really good rummage through all of his drawers. Maybe steal his biscuits as well, cuddle his dogs. So yeah, spend the day with Alan, and then I'm going to carry on then. Monday, I've got my first planning meeting with the publishers search press for my book. So it's been, what, I think they approached me back in March. First spoke to me in April about the deal. I signed the contract in, I think it's July or August. So now it's sort of like September, October, November, 3 months on, we're having our first planning meeting. Now, someone's told me that in the planning meeting they're going to say to me, so what do you want on page 1 and what do you want on page 2? So I've got quite a good basic plan. I know what's going in the book. I've even got an idea of what images I want going in the book as well, and what the tutorials are going to be. So I'm thinking I'm going in there quite organised, and they've told me it's quite relaxed, but I know that I'm in the room with, like, I don't know, the CEO and my chief editor and the marketing team. So I'm going to be like, ooh, I know I'll enjoy it once I get going, I guess, because it'd be good to get going on the book. I really want to get going on it. But it's an 18-month project. And the other thing I need to ask them, is lots of things I've got to ask them, is like, how much can I share? Can I share things with you guys? Can I ask you guys for feedback on things? And I'd really like to involve you guys, like, in the creation of the book, because, most of you have been there on my journey, really, and this is like part of my journey, and there's so many things on my journey that you guys have sort of guided me towards, or paths that you've led me down. So as much as this is, my book, it's for you. So I'm really looking forward to being able to pin them down and seeing if how much I can actually share or reveal along the way. So yeah, quite excited. But yeah, straight after this, I've got to go and pack my bags, take loads of originals with me. Not that I've got a lot of originals, and then a long drive, and then yeah, Monday I'll be. Think of me at 9:30 Monday morning, because I'll be stressing in the room. Hopefully it'll go well. But yeah, any hints and tips? Maybe I'll put a post out saying, if you wanted something in a book or something done differently to what you've had before, anything you feel that's missing, what would you want to see? Because obviously, my ideas might be different to other people's ideas of what they actually do want to see. So, but yeah, I am looking forward to that. Kind of. I'm not looking forward to the drive, but I'm sure we'll have a few laughs with Alan as well. So you're all very quiet today. Hope I haven't bored you all. But yeah, is there any more questions? Or when layering, how do you know? Oh, Jennifer, did you ask me this question somewhere? Because I've seen it and I've been so busy, I haven't had a chance. And I think whoever it was that asked, if it was you, Jennifer, said something like, you understand the whole process, but it's just that still, when do you know to move on? When do you know you've done enough of one colour or one tone? I think it was you. Brilliant. Oh, okay. There's a few things. When I create the tutorials, I create them quite logically, not quite how I create naturally. So I have to be a bit more methodical and go, okay, let's use... So if we switch it down to those kind of basics, if I was doing, say, a black dog, say let's take the black German Shepherd, for example. So I'd go in and I work dark to light. So I'd go in, first of all, possibly with my black or my dark indigo or my Caput Mortem Violet. And basically, I would just put those colours down everywhere on the first initial pass, everywhere that I can see them. And what I tend to do is make the whole dog, I basically want to colour in something over the whole dog, first of all. So that is my sort of like my first laydown of pigment. Then I'll go in and I'll just keep building it in with the working on pastel matte. Remember, when we're doing more than one thing, we'll build in tonal value at the same time as adding colour, at the same time as filling the tooth and getting rid of the grainy texture, as well as creating our shapes and contours and everything like that. So there's lots of things going on in your mind. And it's a case of then, if you've added all the colour on one layer and then you go in and you add like some greys and other colours not over the top, if you've then lost some of your reddish tones or your bluish tones, you just go back in and you tend to find as you go on through the piece, you're adding smaller and smaller bits in all over, and it's just like, oh, I've lost a bit of orange there, I need to pop it in now. And it's as you notice it. So it's sort of kind of like a rule at the beginning of I put all of this colour in and then I put all of that colour in and I build up that tone. But as I start to get further into the piece, I might get a little bit more random and it's just little bits as I notice it. There's no sort of set formula as you go on. It's sort of, I'm missing that little bit there now, so I need to pop that back in. Or I've lost some of that dark tone there now, I need to put that back in. It's kind of just adjusting as you go, and it just comes with practice. I hope that's kind of answered it. Maybe I can talk more when I do a tutorial. I can keep that in mind and explain that as I go along and keep that as part of the process. It's kind of something that I guess I've included but not verbalised in that way. Robin has asked, you talked on Patreon of doing textures. Would you consider drawing an elephant? I'm having a bit of trouble with the texture of the elephant's skin. Well, I did try doing an elephant once. I tried doing him in graphite and I tried doing him about A1 size. First of all, I set myself an impossible task, and then it just frustrated me, so I just put elephants way out of my sort of to-do list, to be honest. I've been so busy. But then I like working from my own reference photos. I have got some of elephants from when we went to an orphanage in Sri Lanka. There's a couple there I could work from, but it would be a case of I'd like to go out and get my own reference images, even though I know I could probably get hold of some amazing ones. I actually have a couple in mind already of elephants if I depicted them. So maybe though, if we just did one on texture, so looking basically quite close up at, like we've done the fur studies, is that maybe more what you mean, Robin? Just doing like a fur study, but more of elephant skin with those hairs and the creases. I know I've done it on the face of the gorilla, which is quite fun to do. It was a completely different texture. That was skin, but I just treated it again as shapes, tonal values, colours, and I didn't think of it as a different, as being skin. So that's another thing as well. Try not to think of it as being elephant skin texture. Try to still break it down into the big shapes, then the smaller shapes, build your tonal values and your colours. I've got a feeling with elephant skin, it depends on the picture. I might tend to use the stylus quite a lot to sort of, preserve some areas and then use that coming in over the top of my pigment to preserve certain colours of pigment as well, which I think I demonstrated in the erasing on pastel matte technique video. Okay then, right, I'll see. Will feed back to me on that, Robin, about sort of, have you posted your picture maybe in the Facebook group so I know, is it a close-up of a elephant? Is it a big, sort of distance one so you can't really see the details close up? And then we know what kind of sort of size image that I'm looking for to do I keep saying a fur study, to do a mini study of, just to do a texture. But yeah, it would be great to do like a baby elephant or something, or a pair of baby elephants with their little trunks curling together. That'd be lush. Yeah, I hadn't thought of it, Robin, and I've seen Gemma Geiling's done a beautiful one of the elephant, and I think she did hers on suede matte of all things, and it came out stunning. So I'd only really thought to do fur on suede matte because it enhances the fur, but she did elephant skin, and it was stunning. Okay, so that's a good one to think of. Jennifer, that's helpful. Yeah, it is, Jennifer. Honestly, all of these things, I still struggle with things, and I still struggle with, even confidence-wise, I'll go back to drawing on a surface I haven't used for a few months, and I think, can I do this? Did I ever do this? Was it ever okay? Was I okay doing it? And I just suddenly find as I get going, as I relax, and the ugly stage starts to disappear, hopefully, I tend to get over it then, and I switch off. And I think for the live draw-along sessions, we've said about doing speed drawing for the next one. If you guys can do something like a speed drawing yourself, where you're not focusing on all the details, you're not focusing on everything being perfect, where you just set yourself 30 minutes, even less sometimes, like 30 minutes, to an A4 sheet with a dog on or something on that you really love the image. Don't worry about the colours of your pencils or anything like that. Just go in, loosen up, scribble it, and make an effort that in 30 minutes you're going to stop. You're going to have tonal value, you're going to have colour, shape, form, and a dog with character. You will find that it totally frees you up from worrying quite as much about following a set process religiously. Things have to be a certain way. Throw the rule book out the window and just enjoy it. But practice will make, not quite perfect, but it will make everything improve, and you'll relax into the method a lot more, hopefully. But you'll never quite relax totally. Or I haven't, and I know others that want to push themselves on with their art never do either, and that's the whole reason why we seek to make our pieces better with every piece. Now, I know, Harry, you're listening, and I did see that you'd put up a question on Patreon about working with Lightfast on a smoother paper, but I hadn't seen the image yet, so maybe I can feed back to you in the group or something on that one. I'm sure someone else asked about Meteant's Touch, and I know I did type an answer back, and I was waiting for a reply on that one. It's something I'd need to try. I haven't tried laying down pan pastel and then colour pencil using the touch paper to be able to give, an educated reply to that. I suspected that the touch had more tooth than the Colourfix Smooth that I'm using, so maybe it was just too thick a layer of pan pastel. So maybe lifting off some of the pan pastel might have then helped the pencil to go down. But again, it's one of those things I'd need to try myself before I can give an informed answer to. All right, let's check the time again. 5 to 4. I don't know. What else should we talk about? I'll try and think of next month. Right, okay, next month Was you, Susie? Upload my image later. Fab. Yeah, next month we'll put out the Q&A. I'm going to try and do 2 Q&As next month. So if we can get our head around the technology of the display, what I might do on Patreon is try and do a critique session. So literally a critique where I get you guys, if you want to do this, where I get you to submit a work in progress or a finished piece with the reference photo. It helped me a lot if you could get them aligned up, you know, in Be Funky. But if not, I can do that. I can put the images side by side. And then what we're going to do is maybe do 2 Q&As next month. The normal Q&A, like this one, I'd do a general one and I'd open it up to everyone in the Facebook group. So there's about 500 in the Facebook group. Sort of like a little Christmas thing where I do an extra one. It won't be fully public, but it would just be for the group. And then the Patreon exclusive one, we could answer specific questions and maybe drop in critiques. So we could do some little mini critiques where, yeah, so I just then bring your images up on the screen. We can all see it, and I can then just go, okay, well, I do this here, maybe use that colour there, tweak that little bit there. But it's up to you guys whether that's something you want. I know people have asked before about could I do mini critiques. I do proper critiques, obviously, for a hidden tier, a higher tier on Patreon. That's why I can't give really full critiques regularly to people. I have to be, you know, sort of quite respectful that people are paying me money to have a critique service each month over on Patreon. But I was just thinking that as a one-off coming up to Christmas might be a good idea. Especially as a few of you here today have just said about, you know, you're struggling with something or pencils on something. So if I could see it, then and have the reference image and have something to compare it to, it could be something that maybe we could just discuss over about a minute or so, and everybody else could benefit from us talking about it as well, and everyone else could input on it as well, which would be quite a good thing. But yes, we'll try and figure out the technology around that one step at a time. But okay then, right, well, we shall. I don't really want to round it up because it means I've got to go and pack all my bags for tomorrow, and it's getting dark and cold and horrible here already. But if we start to wrap things up for today, big thank you to everybody who's joined in today. I hope everything about the website and the scanning and the other bits that we have talked about has been informative. Obviously, any questions, anything that I've missed that you still feel you need an answer to, just let me know. I'm away for a couple of days now. I hope Tuesday to maybe get a day off. I've popped up the first 2 parts of the polar bear online. I've got one more part to get up there, but then I need to carry on with the pencil work when I get back. So I'm hoping he should be finished Wednesday, possibly Thursday. And then the rest of the videos edited up by next weekend, hopefully. And then I can get on with the written tutorial as well. Oh, and I've got one big thing at the end of the month, which I will hopefully be able to share the news with you guys with first, but I'm kind of sworn to secrecy. But yeah, it's a really big event that I've got to go to for something special, so I'm hoping to be able to share that with you. So thank you very much, everybody, and thank you to Rob as well. Trying to keep the doggies under control. I was going to see if Sherlock wanted to pop in for a starring role, but he's probably snoring on the sofa, tucked under a blanket, because he's sensible. Okay, everyone. So I will finish the stream in a second, and thank you very much again for joining me. I really do appreciate it. Okay, thanks. Bye-bye.